Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. It's Ian Claus, not Santa. Ian Claus, Bobano Claus, whatever you want to call me. We are giving you the Christmas gift, hopefully, of some winners on the college basketball betting board today on this Wednesday, December 23rd. Welcome in to this edition of the Pub Sports Radio college basketball closing time betting show. Ian Cameron and Connor Mack with you. Looking forward to breaking down this card. Solid day for me yesterday in CBB. Let's see if we can keep it rolling today, Connor. This game either just tipped off or is about to tip off. You can bet it live I think it just got underway about a minute in. If you want to hop in on this bet with me, because I bet it before the game started. I bet this one over 152, Xavier and Creighton in the Big East. Big East games are going over the total. It's insane. The Big East is just trending over the total once again. Much like it did last year in college basketball. Creighton, I think, hasn't played an under yet at home this year. And overall, I think they've played maybe one or two unders, and every other Creighton game's gone over. But I think at home here in their home court of Omaha here, they have not gone under the total yet. So I thought there'd be points. Xavier's also playing much faster this year. So I bet over the total with Xavier and Creighton. That game just underway in the Big East. All right, let's go to UCLA and Oregon, which was supposed to tip off in a half an hour from now. But there is apparently a COVID-19 positive test with an official that was scheduled to referee that game and be involved in the officiating crew. So the game's up in the air. They're right now saying they're at least going to wait 3 hours and hopefully play it at that time. So we'll cap it and talk about it as if it's going to get played. Currently, Oregon 3-point favorites at home, 136 the total in this game. This should be a really good one because you got two teams that feel they're good enough to win the Pac-12 this year. UCLA is certainly, I think, the best amount of talent they've had in years, and Mick Cronin's team off to a very, very solid start. They did have a step back in their last game against Ohio State, 77-70. So I think that makes UCLA a team that I'd be reluctant to go against them because bounce back spot here for them as they go back to conference play. But as I've said before, I mean, I need a good reason to fade Oregon. Oregon's been one of my favorite teams for years. Dana Altman, one of my absolute favorite coaches in college basketball. Every year he's got this Oregon team playing at a high level, and it looks like they're playing extremely good basketball right now, too. You can argue they haven't been tested a lot. They did beat Seton Hall. They have the loss to Missouri. Since then, not a lot of great opponents. San Francisco was actually a pretty decent opponent, but they won that game by 10. They have basically passed all comers so far. LJ Figueroa, Eugene Amoriyi, Chris Duarte. I mean, it's a really good Oregon team. And even though I think the spot is good for UCLA in bounce back mode, you'll get focus from them. I'm reluctant to go against Oregon here, especially just -3 at home. So it's a pass for me, but more than anything, it's going to be a good game to watch. Maybe a lean to the under in this game because you got two teams that can play defense. What's your thoughts, C-Mac, UCLA, Oregon?
Yeah, real quick. First off, I agree with you with that over. Just real quick on that. Big East games have been going over. I agree with you. I think it's high. As we saw last night, the Big Ten's a little different, and I can't believe Purdue just can't score in Iowa because they can't stop anybody. My best bet was shambles, but the night was good. But I'm with you here. I'm on the under with the UCLA and the Ducks, and it's going down, though. I'd watch it here. It's about at 135 right now, and you're going to get extra hours because of what you just said, that positive test. So I'm with you on the under. I'd lean a little bit UCLA. I'm not a big Mick Cronin fan, but they're pretty good. They've been good on the road, and I like Oregon. I always like them real later during the year. They always seem better, but they've come out pretty hot this year. I'd lean UCLA a little bit to +3, but I'm staying off the side. I like the under, but I'd start watching it right now at about 134. It's starting to get dicey.
Yeah, definitely. It's getting to the point where you lose enough value that you're a little reluctant to get in on it beyond that. Idaho State, Northern Colorado. We just talked about these two teams yesterday, and we're talking about them again, playing each other. Northern Colorado, 9-point home favorites, 134.5 the total. Let's give Connor credit. He said a little reluctant to lay this many points with Northern Colorado yesterday, and sure enough, it was too many points as they won, but they didn't win by the margin required yesterday in the first game against Idaho State. The rematch, I'll say this I don't have the guts to bet Idaho State again because in these situations where you got the back-to-back, the losing team of the first game of the back-to-back has been a pretty solid bet in the second game. From at least ATS they have been. So for that reason, I'd lean Idaho State, but they're not better than Northern Colorado. It's just the mildest of leans for me to Idaho State. Connor, how about you in this Big Sky game?
I'm with you too, because I think Northern Colorado, once again, should not be favored by 9 to anyone, even Idaho State. And as you saw, they only lost by 5. It's a little bit dicey, but I'd roll it again. I think it's too many. I like Iowa State here, plus the 9.
All right, on we go. Towson, George Mason. We've got George Mason, 4.5, 5-point home favorites, 135 the total. George Mason hadn't played in a while, and that was a big reason why I took VMI plus the points against them the other day. You could tell they were just not sharp and struggled to win that game straight up, let alone cover as 9-point favorites in that game. But now they get a game under their belt. I think they're a little bit better than Towson. I would lean to George Mason here. I think they'll be a lot sharper, a lot crisper here in this game. Towson can be a little bit stingy defensively, and I understand why that can sometimes lead to them being a good dog, and I think that's what some people are seeing because they opened 6.5 dogs. They're down to 5 now, but the number's now sitting where it is. I have a slight lean to George Mason, but a game I didn't get involved in. What do you think here, Connor?
I'm with you too. I think there's a little bit of value with George Mason at 5, but not a lot. They haven't been good at home against the spread. I like them a little bit. Like you said, Townsend can play pretty good defense. I'd lean with them. I didn't bet this game either, but I'd lean George Mason. I think they're the better team. I think they can cover this number. Just didn't make my card today.
All right, Rutgers and Ohio State. Good one in the Big Ten here. Ohio State taking the money, 2-point favorites where they opened. They're now 3.5 even starting to show up in some spots. The total in this one around 138.5. I do agree with the drop in the total. I think it's going to be, lower scoring at least. I don't love Ohio State at the offensive end of the basketball court, but I'll tell you what, that was a really impressive win for Chris Holtman's bunch against UCLA. Coming off a pretty disappointing game against Purdue, and they bounced back strong against a talented UCLA team, winning 77-70. Rutgers undefeated, 6-0. Steve Peichel, talk about another one of my favorite coaches. What a job he's done here at Rutgers. Rutgers basketball was in this garbage dump when he took it over, and they should have been a tournament team last year. Well, they would have been a tournament team if COVID-19 didn't come barreling in and disrupt all of those plans. But they're going to be a tournament team this year for sure. This is just a really, really good group. Sound. Offensively, I think they're even better than last year. Geo Baker and Montez Mathis and Miles Johnson, Jacob Young, Ron Harper Jr. I mean, this is a team that can score more. They've still got the pretty good defensive play, rebound the basketball. They got a toughness to them too, a physicality. I think that gets them very far. They're 19th in the country in defensive efficiency, 35th in the country in offensive efficiency. That's where they've made the jump from last year to this year. They can score the basketball a lot more consistently this year. There are some injury concerns for Rutgers going into this game. It looks like from their standpoint, Clifford Omoruyi, he is the guy that may not play here in this game for Rutgers, and maybe there's some reaction to that. But I liked Rutgers initially, and I'm just going to hold my stance here for now. Wait to get the best number possible and take Rutgers here plus the points. Remember, I cashed with Rutgers on the road against Maryland. I think you can argue Ohio State maybe a little bit better than Maryland, but Rutgers has shown this year that unlike last year, CMAC, I think they're ready to step up on the road and start winning on the road. That was always their bugaboo last year.
Yeah,
I think they're ready to show, hey, we can go on the Big Ten road and win basketball games. And they don't even have to win here to cover this number. So I like Rutgers here plus the 3.5. What's your thoughts on this one in the Big Ten?
Yeah, you nailed it, Babano. Jansen had said it right there in the chat. All those, Rutgers the last few years, you can't trust them. But with Mathis and Ron Harper Jr., I think this team's a little bit different. I don't love it here, but like if it gets to 3.5, I think I'd go with Rutgers. I think they're just a better team. I know the last few years, betting, or not the home team in Big Ten games was not smart. Home teams just killed, especially. But I don't love Ohio State. I think they're pretty good. I think the line's about right. I haven't bet this one either, but I still got to lean Rutgers just a little bit. If it was 4, I love it. Some about a 3.5, I just like more. It's more than a tray, they can get you. So if it gets to 3.5, I might pull with Rutgers. I think they're like you said, I think they're ready to step up. I think they're right there, maybe the third best team in the Big Ten, third or fourth. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. I like Rutgers here. I lean with them.
Yeah, and again, there's going to be teams that I'm either higher on or not as high on compared to the odds makers in the betting market. St. Mary's is one team, like for instance, last night, and it was a great bet there, San Diego State. But I said I'm down on St. Mary's, and I have a more negative opinion on them than the odds makers do. I think when it comes to Rutgers, it's the opposite. I think I've got a higher opinion on Rutgers than the odds makers do. I think they might be better than odds makers are giving them credit for. It's certainly for them, a proving ground, because I think they beat Maryland on the road. Like I said, I think Ohio State's a little better than Maryland. This is going to be a tougher game here. So, but I still lean Rutgers here. Again, not my best bet, but I think Rutgers is worth it, especially if this number creeps up even higher than the 3.5 it's at now. We've got Georgetown, Seton Hall in the Big East here in the next game on the rotation order. Seton Hall 9 to 10-point home favorites, 147 the total. I lean a little to Georgetown here, and I love Seton Hall, but Georgetown, this is the point spread rule for them under Patrick Ewing. They've been a good underdog. That's the only role you want to bet Georgetown in. Underdog, they've been pretty good in conference play, catching points. I could see them hanging around here. I'd lean that way, but I just love Seton Hall so much that I'm not pulling the trigger, but I'll throw out a lean there on the Georgetown side. I did bet the over, though, in this game. Seton Hall should score. Georgetown's defense lacks a little once again, which has basically been the pattern for them the last few years for the Hoyas. But Georgetown's got some offensive capability, offensive punch. We've seen that more than one occasion. Let's not forget they hung tough and actually offensively did very good for over a half against West Virginia before things finally started to get away from Georgetown. So I think they can contribute to the scoring here. And like I said earlier with the Xavier Creighton game, Big East games, it's just been an overpalooza in this conference. So I like over 147 there with the Hoyas and the Pirates. Mighty with the Pirates here. What do you think, C-Mac? Seton Hall, Georgetown.
I'm with you too. I think it's just a little bit high here. This hits 10. I really like it. Georgetown is not very good. They're not good as a favorite. They're just in a weird spot. I don't know if Patrick Ewing's the answer either. A great guy, but he's got all that history with him, played there, but I do like it here, 9.5, and I lean the over as well. I was seeing it. I don't think it gets to 10. I still might take it. I think 9.5 is a lot. And I like Seton Hall, but without Powell, I've been a little bullish. I've lost a few and won a few. They kind of needed to learn how to win a little bit. They had some rough games there early. They played well the last, 3 or 4. So I'm a fan of Seton Hall as well. I think it's just a little high here at 9.5.
All right, we agree. We agree with that. All right, on we go. Another Big East game, Providence, Butler. We've got Providence 1.5 point road favorites, 133 the total. The Butler didn't do it the other night against Southern Illinois as they lose outright as 9.5 point favorites to the Salukis. Very good result for me. I had the Salukis plus the points in that game. And this is a bounce back spot. And usually I like that with a capable team, a bounce back spot off a bad loss like Butler's in. But I'm not going to the bounce back spot tonight. In fact, I took Providence and Ed Cooley's bunch here in this game at a pick 'em just to win the game. They've really ironed things out. I know they had a bad game against Indiana in the Maui Invitational, and they got lost to Alabama as well. But those consolation games, and that was a consolation game in that event, I don't put too much stock into them. You look at what they've done recently in December. This is a team that's clearly gotten better. The last few games. They beat TCU on the road 79-70. They go to Seton Hall, win in overtime 80-77. I like the way this team's trending. Nate Watson, the senior's been outstanding here for the Providence team. And I'm just not a big fan of Butler. I said it early in the season. Butler's down this year. They're not as good as they've been in years past. They're only 1-3 this year under Laval Jordan. Their only win is to a really bad Western Michigan team, and they won that game by the skin of their teeth on their home court, by the way, in Hinkle Fieldhouse. Only won that game by 4, and they've lost every other game since then. And key injury as well for the Butler Bulldogs. He didn't play the other night. Aaron Thompson. I mean, he is everything for this team. He's the one guy that you can consistently can break you down off the bounce, off the dribble, can create his own shot, can get to the lane, can even pull up, make one from deep. He's got all those attributes offensively, and you saw Butler's offense just stagnate against Southern Illinois in the last game without him. I think that's a key loss. I don't know if betting markets or the odds makers have adjusted accordingly to that injury. I think Providence can go into Butler's home court here and get the victory. And again, they're in a price range here where a win will cover the number as well. What do you think here, CMAC, Providence, Butler?
I'm with you. The Aaron Thompson, that's why, normally Butler, I like them in a bounce back spot. But I've always liked Providence. I like Ed Cooley. Without Thompson, he's kind of their guy. He's our point guard. It runs through him. Without him, I just can't take him. So I like Providence. You got to pick him. I got -1 earlier. I still like it. It's still -1. So even 1.5, I think Providence is the side. Butler is going to struggle to score. Their offense, it's just going to be tough. Without Thompson in, it's going to be tough for them to score. So I like Providence here.
All right, Cal State, Bakersfield, Pepperdine. We've got Pepperdine 6.5 point home favorites here, 138.5, 139 the total. I can understand the Bakersfield money, and Pepperdine's got a couple of injuries as well going into this game tonight. And Bakersfield's been a pretty feisty underdog. They covered against where did they play in their? I think it was Arizona in their Stanford, I should say, in their last game as an underdog. They were double digits. They covered in that game. Very good defensive team, a methodical team. One that could frustrate Pepperdine, especially with Pepperdine shorthanded some of their key scorers. So I understand the move. I didn't bet it, but I understand why the money's coming in on Bakersfield. This is another one where I understand it. I would lean Bakersfield, but Pepperdine's been my team. I've cashed a lot with Pepperdine. I really think this is a good basketball team, but they've got injuries. And Colby Ross, one of their key players, if not their best player, he's another one of the ones that is questionable for this game. Obviously, it would be huge if he doesn't play here for the Waves. Connor, what's your thoughts here? Bakersfield, Pepperdine.
You nailed it. I like Pepperdine, but the injuries are keeping me off this. Even with the injuries, I still like it, but they got it right on the number here. I think it's 6.5. I lean Pepperdine, but with those injuries, I don't want to take them tonight. Bakersfield's not very good, and Pepperdine get up and score, but those injuries hurt. That's too many points. Their best players out. I got to pass here.
All right, on we go now. Next game, Illinois, Penn State in the Big Ten. We've got Illinois 4-point road chalk here in Happy Valley, 149.5 the total in this game. I like the over a little bit, and I certainly like Illinois here. I mean, this is when you would expect Illinois to go out there focused, get off the schneid here. It's been a little bit all of a sudden. You lose to Missouri and you lose to Rutgers. Now, not a bad loss. Neither of them bad losses. Missouri can play this year. And obviously, Rutgers, we talked about them a minute ago. It's a really good basketball team. But still, the fact you've lost a couple in a row now, you want to stop the bleeding, and you want to stop the bleeding pronto if you're Brad Underwood in this Illinois team. So I'd expect, and I think they have a chance to absolutely dominate Penn State in the low post with Kofi Coburn. I think he's got a huge matchup advantage here in this game. It's not a big size in the front court type of team that the Nittany Lions have. Of course, Ayo Dosunmu, one of the top guards in the country, didn't even shoot the ball that well against Rutgers. I think it's a situation where you can get Illinois strong, focused. They're the better of these two teams, even after the couple of losses. There's no doubt they're better than Penn State. We've seen Penn State have some ugly performances. I remember early in the season, they coughed up a big lead and lost a game that was just a really bad one from the Penn State standpoint. I think they're going to be just walking into facing this Illinois team, wrong place, wrong time type of situation here for Jim Ferry and his Penn State team. It was the Seton Hall game. Yeah, they were up big, and then they lost by 6 in overtime. They beat Virginia Tech, which was an outlier because Virginia Tech couldn't make a shot that night. They played well, but Virginia Tech was just an anomaly type of offensive performance they had that night. And then they lost to Michigan on the road over the weekend. I think Illinois, again, a number now getting up there a little, but I think 6 to 8 point win for Illinois. I think that's in the cards. I would still, even at -4, enough of value, I think, still to go ahead with the Fighting Illini here. What's your thoughts, CMAC, Illinois, Penn State?
I'm with you. Illinois has been really good off a loss. They're like what I have here, 8-3. And Penn State, the last 6 at home, is only 1-5 against the spread. They're not as good as last year. This one's tough. I don't know if I'm going to get there. I think they've both been over teams, but we're getting in conference. We saw it last night. And even Penn State's first game against Michigan, 62-58. I think at 149.5, I lean a little bit under. We'll see, because Illinois has just been an over. Hey, they've been over every game. I don't blame you for looking that way. I think I might learn. I kind of learned my lesson last night. I jumped the gun. This one could still go over because these teams love to get up and down. They can both score, I think, on each other. So I don't know if I get to the window, but I'd lean a little bit here. We're getting in conference, the under 149.5.
All right, on we go. It's Weber State, BYU. BYU 13-point home favorites, 145 the total. This is an intense rivalry. You wouldn't think it's one of the big rivalries in college basketball, but these two teams that definitely have a rivalry. Unfortunately, BYU's dominated it. It's unfortunate, I should say, for Weber. That's probably not going to change this year. I think BYU's probably going to win the game, but these rivalry games, I'm always reluctant and hesitant to lay this many points in them. And, you look at Weber's schedule, their wins came against Portland State, Westminster, and Adams State, so nothing to write home about. But they did step up and play Boise on the road, a very good Boise team this year, lost by 11, kept themselves competitive in that game. I think in a rivalry spot like this, I'd lean for Weber's not great this year. I don't think they're as good as they've been in years past, but I'd still lean to the Weber side. It's a rivalry game. Step up. BYU too off the huge win against San Diego State, maybe a little flat, lethargic today, perhaps. Yeah, I lean a little bit to Weber. Not a game I bet, but I'll throw, you want to throw out leans at least. Try to give you some sort of, if you want to bet the game, that's where the leans come in. Hopefully they help you out. If you're thinking of betting a side and the leans that we give you agree with what you're thinking, hopefully that can push you in one direction or another. But for me, not betting the game, but definitely would lean to Weber here, plus 14. What's your thoughts, Connor?
I'm with you here as well. I think they could stay in there. I was surprised. Yeah, they hung in there with Boise, and I really like Boise. We'll talk about them later in another rematch. But they didn't cover the other night, and that kept me off. That Texas Southern, that big game. Initially, I thought BYU, I think they can get this cover. I stayed off it, and they think they just got under. They won by 16, something like that, 15-16, under the 17.5. So I lean State as well, Weber State. So I'm a lean as well. I didn't bet this game, but I lean it. I just wish it was 16 or 17. That would make me. That might have got me to the window. You're getting to 14, and it's dipped to 13.5. I've seen some 13s out there. I'm going to stay off, but I lean that way.
All right, lean to Weber as well. We've got Villanova, Marquette. Real fascinating Big East game here. Villanova up to 5.5 on the road, 141.5 the total. If this game gets higher, I might take a shot with Marquette because I think they've got a chance here to hang in this game. And I like Villanova a lot. But if you're going to give me a chance to get 6 or more with this Marquette side, I'd be interested because I think Marquette is playing better and better. Let's not forget, and I think people are seeing that Steve Wachowski's team. By the way, Steve Wachowski, he is a dead ringer for that. What's his name? James Corden, who does the late night show on CBS. You look at the two guys; they are like clones. They look identical, the two of them. Can't tell the difference. But it's scary, the resemblance with those two. Marquette, yeah, they've lost a couple tough ones, but, lose by 7 to Seton Hall. We're right in that game. Lose by 3 to Xavier at the buzzer. That was a buzzer beater, by the way, for Xavier to beat Marquette 91-88 over the weekend. They beat Creighton on the road, an impressive win. Don't be fooled by the 9-point loss against UCLA. They were ahead for a lot of that game, and they just let it slip late. Yeah. Tough to lay this many with Marquette against Marquette because they've been right in pretty much every single game. So not a game I bet because I thought initially I didn't want to take them at just 3.5, 4. But now with it going up to 6, I'm getting more interested in Marquette. Not enough to bet it yet. But again, with the Big East over the total, makes sense to me. I know Villanova's very good defensively. They don't play fast. They're still very efficient offensively with Gillespie, Robinson, Earl, and company. They can score. Marquette, I think, as well can, especially at home. So over 140.5, a small play there, and a lean for me to Marquette. What's your thoughts, T-Mac? Very good one here in the Big East.
Yeah, this is very good. I'm with you here. Now that's creeping up. It touches 6. I think I'm going to go with Marquette here. I'm with you. I lean a little bit on the over. Both teams can score. Nova, just to look at, like Mike just wrote, they've been a second half team. They've been lethargic in these first halves. They don't mind being down 8 or 10, and they come out and come back and come second half, have a big second half, and it won. Some they've covered, some they haven't. I still like Villanova a lot. They're one of the better teams, I think, in the country, top 5 at least. But if this hits 6, I'm on Marquette. I think that's too many here. And I leaned that over as well. This was kind of my last look. This game right here. I was waiting to see if it'd go up, and I was just kind of waiting to play this total because I think it's right there. I think at 141, I think we can get over it. So I'm leaning both those ways.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think we can get up and over that total as well. And Mike, great points in the chat. Jansen, I noticed you said you had to head out. He's a good friend of mine. He's from Toronto. We've met before. Jimmy the Bag and company doing a little party in the past downtown Toronto. Merry Christmas to you as well. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us every day. We appreciate it. This is our last college basketball show before Christmas. We'll be back Tuesday, Wednesday next week as well. With college basketball. So make sure you join us for that. We'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting in January. Every week we'll be 3 days a week, and we're going to have our regular schedule where there's lots of games Tuesday, lots of games Wednesday. Thursday, you get a lot of games, but more of those. You get some Pac-12, you get some Sun Belt, those Thursdays in January and February in college basketball. You have Sun Belt, CAA, a little Colonial, Athletic. Those are the conferences that dominate the Thursday slate. Horizon League plays a little bit on Thursdays. You get some Big Ten, but not many.
Usually two games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to those for sure. Those will be some fun cards to break down. So we're going to be with you every step of the way, right through till we cut down the nets with the national championship game in early April. So looking forward to bringing you the college basketball great shows in this sport here on Pub Sports Radio moving forward. Next up, we've got St. Louis and UMKC here, a little in-state action here. We've got St. Louis 22.5, 23-point home favorites, 132.5 the total. And for me, I laid it with St. Louis. I'm a St. Louis guy. They finally stung me for the first time the other night against Minnesota. Again, even good teams are going to have a clunker and have just a bad performance. And they finally had a really, really tough performance in that game against Minnesota, especially defensively. You don't think of a St. Louis team struggling that much defensively. Well, they certainly did that against Minnesota. Minnesota shot incredibly well against what's normally a very stingy, very, very solid defense of the Billikens. I think they can come. I think they'll be focused to do it after that loss as well. UMKC can't shoot straight half the time. I remember taking them as a big dog recently in a game, and they just they couldn't shoot.
Minnesota.
It was Minnesota.
That's the one I was on.
90-61, and I took them against Kansas State. Because I know I cashed with them once too as a dog. It was the Kansas State game, but even they only scored 58 against a Kansas State team that's just been such a massive flop this season. They only scored 57 against Toledo as well, and Toledo's not a great defensive team. So if St. Louis is focused, wanting to bounce back after that terrible outing against Minnesota, I think it's going to be rough sledding for UMKC offensively here in this game against St. Louis. I think we can lay it here with St. Louis. I think can get something like, 78 to 52. That kind of score makes sense to me in this game in favor of St. Louis. I'd lean under as well, but for me, I'm going to lay these points with the Billikens here. What's your thoughts, C-Mac?
I'm with you. Kansas City, the Roos, they can't score. And their best player's been in and out of the lineup. I don't know if he's in tonight, especially if he's not in. I think St. Louis really coasts here. I'd lay it with them. I haven't yet. I was going to wait till that to maybe check just to make sure he's out. But I'd still like it. I think St. Louis bounced back. I even knew – I was with you too. I took St. Louis against Minnesota. I still liked it. I knew it was kind of a trap. You know what I mean? Going to Minnesota might be. Didn't play their best game. Still lost by 2, being favored there. But I like him here. I think they bounce back and probably cover this. So St. Louis, I'd lean it. I haven't bet it yet.
All right, so you lean to St. Louis for C-Mac as well. This is a bet for me. I've actually laid the 23 here with the St. Louis side. I think they get right here in this game. Again, and when this team is healthy, St. Louis, with Jordan Goodwin and Hassan French and Javonte Perkins, this is a really good team. They are a team that can win the A-10, in my opinion. They're a team that can, if they should get into the tournament, and if they do, they are capable. Get to the second weekend type of team in March. I really think that. Sweet 16, I think, is their ceiling on this St. Louis team. I think they could win a first-round tournament game, a second-round tournament game, and get to a Sweet 16. I don't know about getting beyond that, but they've got potential to be one of those teams that can get to the tournament and maybe upset the apple cart a little bit. Northwestern and Indiana, Big Ten action here. We've got Indiana, 8.5, 9-point home favorites, 140.5 the total. I want to watch this game more than bet it. Is Northwestern for real? I mean, that was a stunner against Michigan State. Nobody in their right mind thought that would happen. But they played a great game. It was not a fluke. They dominated what's supposed to be one of the best teams in the Big Ten at both ends of the floor, Northwestern, in that game. But was that just a one-off? Was that just an anomaly performance? Or was that a sign of a team, Connor, that's better than maybe a lot of us think? Because if it is, and they are better than a lot of us think, it's a lot of points to be giving them. You know, against an Indiana team that's pretty good. I like the talent. I like Race and Trace Tompkins on this team. But to me, not a team still I trust with as a moderate favorite, especially if Northwestern might be better than I thought they were. And we're going to find that out tonight. And then the flip side of that argument is, well, letdown city, you know, after just beating Michigan State. Now you go on the road to Assembly Hall in Bloomington, and you're just walking into a potential bad spot here. But so that's why this game, I'm staying far away from it from a betting standpoint, but it's a fascinating one to watch. We'll find out a lot more about whether this Northwestern win against Michigan State was for real and a sign of them maybe being a lot better, or whether that was just a one-off. We'll see if they can go on the road and compete with a pretty solid Indiana team. What's your take here, Connor?
Yeah, this one's tough. I got to lean a little bit with Northwestern. I think it's just too many points. Something with Indiana. I think Indiana's good. We'll see how good they are. I don't know if they're really ready yet, to be prime time. Northwestern's scrappy. I think they can hang in here. I wish it was 10, but I got a small bet with them at 8.5. I think they can go in there. We'll see. Indiana could blow the doors off them. I don't see them as that kind of team, though. You know, they're slow-paced. They have trouble shooting the ball at times. Their offense can get stagnant. They do play pretty good defense. I'd lean a little bit towards the under as well. It's 140.5. I'd lean that way, and I'm going to take a small bet on Northwestern plus 8.5.
All right, so lean under and small bet on Northwestern plus the points. Yeah, I mean, if Northwestern's in this game and dare I say it wins the game, well, we definitely got to give Chris Collins' team a lot more credit and respect at that point. San Jose State, Utah State. We've got Utah State 22-point favorites, 151 the total. San Jose State, fast-paced, not a very good defensive team. Would certainly lean over the total in this one. Didn't bet it because of it being a rematch situation, but I could see this one getting up and over 151. And San Jose State's just awful, so I can't even take them getting this many points. But again, you got the rematch situation. Who knows if Utah State's fired up to win by the margin that's required. Connor, what's your take here on this one?
Yeah, I'd roll with Utah State. San Jose State they looked like they didn't give a shit. You know, that was just bad. I mean, they play in the second time. We always think maybe take them, and that could be true. They could play a little inspired. I'm going to stay away. I'd still lay it with Utah State. I don't think they're great, but San Jose State's one of the worst teams, and that performance was bad. That was just bad the other night. What was the final? Do you have it real quick? Here, let me grab it. It was like 101.
It was ugly. Oh, it was. I mean, they gave up a hundo in that game.
Yeah, 107-62.
There you go.
I don't love it. Utah State a little bit, but on these back-to-backs, I've seen those blowouts, and then they lose by 4. Yep. You know what I mean? Something weird. So I'm staying away from this one.
Hasn't always cashed, but I know it's cashing at above 56, 57%. The team that lost the first game of a back-to-back in the second game, and that's why I'm still a little reluctant to go against teams in that situation. Doesn't mean you have to bet on them, though, either. Let's see. Let's give you a score update quickly. We've got 34-34 tie, Xavier, Creighton, 3 minutes to go in the first. A decent pace there. We're on pace for that over. That's a good sign there. We've got St. Peter's, and I laid the 6.5 with them against St. Francis and took the over. I think the over's pretty much shot. Not going to get there, but St. Peter's could still cover. They're up by 8 with 2 minutes to go. So minus 6.5. Hopefully the Peacocks come through there. And NJIT blasting Rider 62-45. Fall from grace for Rider. No question about they're going to have a tough season. They're going to have a really, really tough season, in my opinion. Lost a lot from last year. Western Illinois, DePaul. We've got DePaul 16.5 to 17-point favorites here in this game. The total 147 across the board. You know, DePaul's one of those teams that what do we get from this group. That's a big time. We know they're playing one of the worst teams in Division I basketball. The Western Illinois Leathernecks, as they're called, are absolutely horrendous. And I think their coach, Rob Jeter, who's in a tough spot, will eventually get some improvement here, but it's going to take some time. Their only wins are against an awful Tennessee Martin team and Mount St. Joseph. The other games were 99-58 loss to Iowa, 79-73 loss to Central Michigan, 67-57 loss to Miami, Ohio. So it's been a rough go for this group. DePaul, though, Dave Lato's team, again, they've had their season completely and utterly disrupted by COVID-19. First game of the season. I can't lay this many points in the first game of the season. We've seen teams struggle to perform at their best in these first games. They could outman Western Illinois, but I don't have the faith to take points with a team as bad as WIU. So it's an easy pass for me, Connor. Anything for you with WIU, DePaul?
I'm going to take a shot. I know DePaul hasn't played, but they're way above here, better here. I'm going to take I'm betting DePaul. I think they can. Western Illinois, as you just talked about, is very bad. They're not a very good. I think DePaul can beat them by 20. The only thing that's got me a little scared, we talked about the first game, DePaul. They've had their whole season just delayed. It's crazy to say they have not played a game. You know, teams have played 8 games already, 8 nights. So I guess that's kind of our normal life right now in this COVID, what's going on. But I'm at 16.5, I like it. You know, it was under 2018. I thought this was a decent number. I think they can cover here, DePaul.
All right, liking them to get the job done, even though it's their first. Yeah, probably they could. You know, even if they're a little sloppy with the basketball, Western Illinois make them pay for it. I'm not sure. New Mexico, Boise State, another rematch. They played just the other night in Mountain West play, and we've got Boise State 11.5-point home favorites, 140 the total in this game. A really tough game for me. Boise to me is better than New Mexico. I mean, I've not been enamored with New Mexico the last couple of years, but you know, they took care of business against New Mexico in the last game. I'm not sure I'm rushing to lay this many. I'd like to bet over, but there's some key offensive injuries on both of these teams, and the first meeting stayed well under. So pass for me on the Mountain West matchup here with the Lobos and the Broncos. C-Mac, did you get involved here?
No, it's a pass for me. I really like Boise State. I just don't like this back-to-back. I could see a cover here. I just could see it. I think Boise is one of the better teams. I was on them since the beginning of the year. I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the Mountain West. So look out for the Broncos. I think they could cover here. They should, but it's not one I would love running the window. They beat them by 24 the other night, last night, the night before. So I'm going to pass, but I lean Boise State. These back-to-backs have been tricky, so I'm going to stay off tonight.
Yeah, they're tricky, and unfortunately, we got to get used to them because we're going to be seeing a whole lot more of them in conference. But I think most conferences, if not every conference, is going to this back-to-back, things. So we're going to have – that's why when we get into conference play, it's going to be really, really tricky. I mean, I won't be betting the volume of plays I'm betting now in the non-conference.
I agree. I like that they're scheduling them quickly, but, it's tough to bet on. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, those rematches, and it's unique. You're never going to see anything like this again. Same two teams playing each other back-to-back games? You never see that in a normal college basketball season. Now you're going to be seeing it a ton this year. So it's a tricky, unique handicap, and you got to just look for patterns, look for subtle signs of the way certain teams are trending in this kind of situation, and see if you can profit from it. That's really what you're essentially looking to do here. Before we get to best bets, and we'll the added board. We've only got 3 games left on the added extra board. And the only game that hasn't tipped off yet that I'm involved in is Coppin State Iona. And it's another over for me in that game, 145. It's up to 146 now. I think it's still some value. I think Iona can just name however number of points they want against Coppin. Coppin is a hideous defensive team, but they play fast. Iona's not lightning fast under Rick Pitino this year. I actually think they're playing a little bit slower, Iona, than they did under Tim Kluse. But they're still an above-average pace team, and they should have a ton of success offensively in this game. Coppin State does play fast, so I like that one over the total. Coppin State, Iona, over 145. That's the only game that hasn't tipped off yet on the added board that I have a bet on. Now, Connor, anything from you on the added board?
No, but Washington State, I looked at a little bit, but it's high. Northwestern State, what's this? Their fifth game in 7 days, something like that.
They played a tough schedule, lots of travel, lots of games in a condensed period of time. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they scored a bunch the second half. Gonzaga didn't really care. Both those games they covered. I think this is just a bit too high. I initially looked at it, and it's at 144. Washington State's got a pretty good defense. I think they'd be tired. I'd lean under here, this number at 144. I kind of like the under a bit. I might be taking it.
Yeah, and you know what? People are seeing what you're seeing about lots of games in a short amount of time, back to back with Gonzaga. Now you got to go play Washington State. Is Washington State ready to be trusted in this price range? I think Kyle Smith's a capable coach. I think he's done a really good job with Washington State. They're on the rise in the Pac-12. And so I agree with what the betting markets are doing here, pushing this number up to 18. But it's just a lot of points to be. Again, this is a team that's rare air for Washington State to be laying 18 points. So, but I understand that this could be Northwestern State just getting run out tonight because of just how tough the schedule is. I would lean to the favorite for sure in that one. All right, sponsors, Connor, what do we got with the?
Yeah, you guys hit up if you need a book, go to Pub Sports Radio. You can deposit 50% your debit or credit. You get 50% back. And you get 100% back if you use Bitcoin. Do the Bitcoin. You put in 500, they give you 500. You put 1,000, they give you 1,000. It's worth having. You got to have multiple books. Go to MyBookieAG. Promo code PubSports. And that's it really tonight. Go to bulk supplements as well. You get 10% off this fall. Get those vitamins, all that stuff. Get jacked for the fall as well.
There you go. Support the sponsors and support Pub Sports Radio and great shows like this. All right, best bets time. I mean, I got a tough one, tough encore to follow after last night with San Diego State. It was just so easy, clearly a right side. They just whipped St. Mary's start to finish in that game. And obviously we got a shorter card as well to deal with. I'm going to go with Illinois here. There are still some, there's no 3.5s left. 4 is what we'll have to go with here. Illinois -4 against Penn State. This is what I would expect, 100% supreme effort out of Illinois. I don't know if they beat Penn State like they beat Duke, but I think they have the chance to pull away and win by a little bit of a margin like they did against Duke in that game. I think you get their A game today, and their A game is too good, in my opinion, is too good for Penn State. So Illinois -4 against Penn State. That'll be my best bet for the college basketball closing time show. C-Mac, where are you headed for best bet?
This is a good tight one. The other one we haven't bet, I'm going to go to this one with Aaron Thompson out. I'm going to roll with Providence. Ed Cooley, the short number, pick them or -1. I'm going to go with Providence. They might not win huge, but they just got to win here. And Butler can't score without him. Their offense revolves around him. I'll roll with Providence, either to pick them or -1.
All right, -1. That's what we can give you right now. Best number, Providence -1 against Butler for Connor Mack and his best bet. And that's going to wrap it up. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah.
Ian Claus, Bobano Claus, wishing all of you a Merry Christmas. This is our last show of college basketball before Christmas. Merry Christmas. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Enjoy time with your families. Cash some tickets as well along the way. Don't forget to do that as well.
We got a bigger, usually Christmas Day. There'd be that one basketball game or two. We got NFL, we got college, kind of a good Christmas day, because usually there'd be those days you sit with your family waiting for the basketball game and the reruns of the Christmas movies. There's nothing on TV or nothing, So we got a lot of good games on Christmas Day to bet on. So it should be good.
I know. It's like everybody decided, even maybe because it's a pandemic, we'll all join the fray.
Yeah.
College basketball on Christmas Day, an NFL game on Christmas Day. So you got a little bit of everything for sure. I'm not done yet because Ski Profit is going to join me in about 15 minutes, and we're going to premiere our first NBA closing time betting show coming up at the top of the hour. Make sure you join us for that. Connor, by the way, will be part of that on most days, especially on Mondays and Fridays when we do that. Moving forward today, it'll be just Ski and I, but make sure you join us 4 p.m. Eastern, top of the hour for that. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Merry Christmas. Good luck with your college basketball plays tonight. We'll see you next Tuesday for the next edition of the College Basketball Closing Time Show right here on Pub Sports Radio. Merry Christmas.
Later, guys. Merry Christmas.